Hi guys, and welcome to Bubba's RC Garage. So what I wanted to do today was go through and show you how to set up and install a new servo on the Senton 223S BLX. So I took it all apart before I realized I wanted to do this. Something that I don't think a lot of people always take into account is making sure that servo is centered before you put everything back together so that your steering isn't all one way or the other. And you don't have to use full trim on your remote. So I went ahead, I took everything apart, and I'll just show you, this servo is fried, but I'll show you what I'm talking about first. There's a little crunch there, but as you can see, I turn the remote, there's nothing there. So what we're gonna do, let's go ahead and install the new one. So like I said, I already took everything apart. Go ahead and unplug it. Turn the remote off. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do when you plug it all back in is that it's the same way it was when you took it apart. So gray to gray. Get it out of here. We got the prongs up. They're gonna go prongs up, gray to gray. All right, so now we should, I'll pop this out, be able to see that gear move, and we're gonna wanna double check something before we put it all back together. Go ahead, plug this back in. So, I don't know if you heard it there, it centered itself when it turned back on, but we've got steering. And so ARMA does give you a little guide to make sure everything's centered, but what you want to do is, one, don't touch the steering at all, but then on the steering trim, you want to bring that back so that it beeps and so that it's centered on that little dot there. So now we know our servo is going to be centered. So now we can go ahead and shut it all back off. Disconnect the battery so it's out of our way, shut the remote back off. And the next thing we're going to want to do is we'll go ahead and put the rest of the screws back in here for this one. Make sure it's all tight down. And I'm just using the included ARMA tools. You're tight, but not crazy tight. Now that one I probably could have put in before I put the wire back into the empty receiver box. These new ARMAs have the 2-in-1 receiver and ESC, but the last one was pretty tight. The steering servo wires were stretched pretty pretty good. So when I put it back in there, I got a little bit more slack in there. For better or worse, I guess. We'll see how that turns out. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this over and we're gonna put that servo horn back on. And so again, this is, Arma gives you a nice little depiction. You wanna make sure that obviously it's centered and straight on. And it does have a little arrow. So we'll get that lined up. And go arrow to arrow. Maybe, if I put it on the right way around. All right, so got that. That was a little tighter than I expected it to be, but got it in there. So we'll put the screw back in that holds it in. There, we're tight. So now the next thing we're gonna do, make sure this is all clean, or less dusty than it already is. We'll drop this back down in here, and that arm, we'll connect that later. But for now, make sure everything's lined up, and then go ahead and flip it over, or on its side at least. And then these, I'm out of here, and then these two here go in to hold that receiver ESC servo mount. Make sure it's all lined up there. Again, with the plastic, you don't want to go too tight, but tight enough to hold it. now that the box is back in place, we can start putting everything back together. Now all this wire here was tucked in, and you can see where it went through that little grommet, but putting that on and getting this base plate back in there. And that to line back up. So these bolts are going to go through there, hold the ESC receiver on, and also hold that receiver box down. So get this one started. Come back over to this one. Make sure that's held down nice. So I put this screw back in here so I wouldn't lose it. We'll take it out real quick. This is gonna hold down the on-off switch. I think that might have been shoved into the receiver box, but I don't remember. But we got a little peg to line up. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a little peg there, just to keep everything in line. Good. Tuck that back down. So everything's in place, nothing wants to move around. Go ahead and flip it over. Put that servo horn back together. Try to line that up there. Tighten it up and we should be good to go. Go ahead and test it out. Plug it back in. Transmitter. Receiver. We've got something in that fan, but we are back in business. We'll go ahead and shut it all back down. Try to maybe clean some of that up. Looks like that fan wire might have slipped out. But there's that. I think the biggest thing is making sure that servo's centered. Maybe something some people overlook. If you need it, that is the part number. I'm not sure what other 2 to 3S vehicles that goes on. I think it might go on the Big Rock, but I might take that apart and see if I can't figure out what it was, but it seems like an electronic thing and maybe not a gear thing. Was covered under warranty by Horizon Hobby. They were really easy to deal with. But that concludes it. Hopefully that helped. Imagine it's a pretty common thing that most people have dealt with at some point if you've been in the hobby long enough. If anybody has any suggestions on the best way to deal with this body, be appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Bubba's Garage.